Welcome back. It's Friday. You made it. Congratulations. I am so excited you're tuning in with us. We have a very, very, very special guest with us today. Mr. Kevin Katie Dorsey came on the show with us. Now, I'm going to bring him on in just a minute, but I want to tell you right now, we are going to answer some questions for you throughout this episode. So while we're talking, while we're chatting, drop your questions in the chat so that you get an opportunity to ask Katie some questions. So without further ado, let me bring him out. What's up?
What up, what up, what up? How we living? How we living?
You're doing great. Thank you for joining me. All right. So I know most of you all know KD. He normally will intro himself as the man, the brother, the father, the son, the husband, a student of the game. What did I miss?
I think that's it. I think the show's over now. That's the episode right there. I think we're good enough.
There we go. Well, if you don't follow Katie, please go give him a follow. Definitely someone that I have learned from since the moment I want to say got on LinkedIn, but let's be real. We were all on LinkedIn, not really using LinkedIn properly in the beginning, right? So since I actually learned how to use LinkedIn properly, you have been someone that I have learned from, and I know so many other people are excited to learn from you as well. So look below, go follow Katie and keep learning from him. Check out his podcast. I've been binging that. And literally thinking about doing my own podcast with Jess Chambers, as you guys know, if you watch the show. So a lot of little tips and tricks I'm learning there. But Katie, thanks for joining us. I'm excited to get right into it today. We have a lot of topics, y'all. If you have questions, ask them in the chat. We will get to them. But as most of you know, Katie just took a role as SVP of Sales at Bench Accounting. So I want to talk a little bit about boomeranging back into corporate life and what that looks like.
What do you want to know?
What do you mean? What do I want to know? I want to know all about it. I want to know about your mind space, what thoughts went through your head when you were really making that decision. We've heard the story. You said no, right? We know you were courted into this, and we know that you really took some time to plan it out. But I think there's a lot of people who have made that leap to bet on themselves, and they maybe are considering going back to that corporate life. What would you say to those people?
So the first thing I would say to them is do what makes you happy. Like there's all these narratives that you go out and you look at. It's like, all right, well, get out of the 9 to 5, go do your own thing. Well, if doing your own thing will make you happy, then do it. And then go do your own thing and have a blast and do all the things and bet on yourself. But if going back to a 9 to 5 would make you happy, do what makes you happy, right? And so that's really what this decision came down to for me. I was not unhappy with what I was doing. I had a great year last year. I got way more traveling. I got to work with so many phenomenal companies, meet new people. Like, it was great. But this is what I wanted to do when this opportunity presented itself. And that really was it. Like I missed leading. I missed connection with a team that was mine and seeing the impact from it and seeing people grow and hit numbers they hadn't hit before and all of that. And so that's really what led me to saying yes. And I've kind of shared this when the CEO finished his pitch finally after I let him do it. I told him I was disappointedly excited. I didn't want to do it, but I wanted to do it. So I did it.
Yeah, I think the impact that you have on people, ultimately, when you do go out on your own and you're doing something for yourself, there is a little bit of a void there if you've led people before. I know I feel that, honestly, going out on my own and not having that camaraderie that I've had before with team members and seeing them thrive, like you said. But I think your path really goes to show that it doesn't have to be one way. Life is curves and turns and twists, and the turns and twists are actually the beautiful part of life, right? If we just went straight and narrow down one path, how exciting would our careers be? If you were in the first role you ever took and you just put your tunnel vision on, where do you think you'd be today?
Jesus, my first role,
Mm-hmm.
I'd be running gyms somewhere. So my first role was actually, in personal training, and built a team of personal trainers and salespeople for gyms. So like you can still look up some old reviews from me way back in the day. But I helped build two very successful personal training studios in LA, and I thought that was actually going to be like my future, is like building those. And if people here remember, like like the curves of the day, right? Those fitness franchises. I was early into the idea of like what you see now as like an Orange Theory fitness. That's truthfully what I thought I was going to do. If I had stayed in that path, I would have been building gyms all across the country.
And I don't think ultimately, knowing all that you've accomplished now, that you would have maybe been as fulfilled just building gyms.
What's interesting about that is, if I don't know how much fulfillment comes from that for me, right? Like I have this weird idea like that things don't make you happy, you are happy, and then you do things, right? So I am fulfilled. I am a fulfilled person, an individual now. I am grateful for everything that I've gone through and everything that I've experienced. And it's because I'm fulfilled that I believe I'm able to do some of the things that I do. Even like I had people then, I was making an impact then. I was helping people achieve their dreams then, right? Like when you help someone lose 100 pounds, like, you know how like emotionally like fulfilling that is, right? So for me, it's so often like at my core, I like to help people and coach people. And so as long as I'm within that range, I'm probably going to be pretty damn happy with whatever it is. And that's the beauty of it, is there's multiple ways to do that. Be personal training, that could be a teacher, that could be a leader, that could be a father, that could be just being a husband, right? Like you can care for and support people outside of your career, right? It's a very American thing for a lot of people. When you ask them like who they are, they'll give you their title. Hey, KD, who are you? That's why my response is always, I'm a man, I'm a brother, I'm a father, I'm a son, I'm a husband. That's who I am. I just happen to do this SVP thing.
Yeah, your title is not who you are. It shouldn't define you. And if it does define you, you probably need to do some more things in your life to really figure out what would bring you joy. But I love that things don't fulfill you. I do agree with you. I think that a lot of people get so wrapped up in this. We have to climb the ladder and we have to do it a certain way that we've always been taught. And that's the only way. But like you said, if you're actually fulfilled as a person, there's multiple ways to do that, right?
True story. True story.
I love it. All right, awesome. So next topic, let's move into being the leader that your team needs and building trust in uncertain times. So this topic came about when I was thinking recently about talking to some candidates who are in roles that are really high paying roles, making their money, like hitting OT, right? But they're in teams that have poor leadership and they feel uncertain. Their leaders are kind of like letting that negativity trickle into the team, and it's really starting to affect some candidates that I'm talking to. So one, what advice would you give to kind of like the SDRs and AEs and salespeople in this position? And then how would you address this with leaders?
Mm-hmm. So is the situation like ICs being in toxic and negative environments? That's the first kind of angle to go through.
Yeah, not so much toxic, but we all know there's uncertain times, right? Layoffs are coming. Nobody really, really knows what's happening in all of those boardrooms. And I think that some teams just aren't feeling that security anymore.
Yeah. So when things get, uncertain, it's when you have to double down on what is certain. And so what I talk to people about is the first and foremost is you have to take care of yourself when things get uncertain. What tends to happen, right, is when stress goes up, what happens to our self-care?
We do
Stress
not.
goes up, right? Self-care goes down right when you need it the most. And so when things get shaky, it's first making sure that you're the rock that you need to be. You're the only one that you have. So you have to make sure, how are you sleeping? How are your inputs? Who are you surrounding yourself with? Are you getting your exercise? Are you eat like all of those things? It first starts there. Because if you're increasing your stress during stressful times, it only gets worse. It doesn't get better. But then the second then is looking at certainty is what are the things you can control? Are you doing them? Like, are you doing the things that are in your control? Because if you're not, it's actually the self-fulfilling prophecy. Things are hard. Well, because things are hard, we get nervous. Because we get nervous, we don't do the right things. Because we don't do the right things, we don't get the result that we want. We don't get the result that we want, things get harder, and it becomes that spiral versus, am I planning my day? Am I hitting the marks in terms of activity that I need to? Am I bringing my best self into every call and every demo and every one-on-one, right? Like, am I doing the things in my control? Because if you do the things in your control to the best of your ability, that's all you can do. That's all you can do. When my team in 2020, right, when COVID hit, we hadn't missed goal in 18 months. 18 months. My team was cruising. We were like, I'll never have a perfect sales team because I am not perfect and people are not perfect, but damn it, there were more flashes in like Jan and Feb of 2020. I mean, we were just flying. And then COVID happens. And a team that had done nothing wrong got rocked. Nothing wrong. And I stood in front of them and said, I've never been prouder of you because you're doing the right things. You are doing the things that we are asking you to do. And that is all I can ask. And so if I look at people at the IC level, are you doing what you're supposed to do? And if you are to the best of your ability and something happens, then it happens. But at least you stayed in the habit of excellence. It's when we are in the habit of mediocrity that then now we need to rise up and it's too late. So I'll pause there.
Well, and I see that often with candidates when I speak to them and they're kind of at that point. You get to that level, and then that's kind of how you enter your job search. You're not in that excellence. You're not at the highest performing possible level you could be at. You've already let yourself mentally get behind the game, right? So letting yourself get behind from the jump doesn't even help you when you're trying to decide, do I stay? Do I go? What do I do? What's best? You're already behind at that point. You have to keep striving. And if you can't show up every day like it's day one, why are you here today? In my opinion, you got to keep that day one mentality.
No, I agree. And y'all, and I don't know if this will be taken the wrong way or not, but I'm going to speak my truth because whatever. Right? When you get really good at something, like really good at it, you never worry about having a job. Like when you get really good, not kind of good, not you think you're good, like when you get really good at something, you don't worry about a job because you're really good at what you do. And if you lose the one that you have now, you could step into another one tomorrow. And this is why I harp so much on self-development and practice and elevating our skills, because when you get good, like really good, you find the next one because you're known to be good. That is the reputation. That is how, and this is where it gets fun. That's your true brand, is how people talk about you when you're not there. That's what a brand is. And if your brand is excellence, you will never struggle to have a job because they will find you.
Yeah. And you'll have that confidence, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've built that, you've been there. It's not just talk. It's not just you're inflated, right, with this personal brand and you haven't actually done the work. But if you've done the work and you actually have people behind you who, like you said, say nice things about you and your reputation stands for you when you're not in the room, I mean, that can take you further than anything else, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. 100%. And people lose sight of that. And I just wish people took their careers, I would say, more seriously, not worked more. I don't want anyone hearing that's what I'm saying. I said, take their careers more seriously. Like most people took their high school sport more serious than they take their career. Like they put more time, more effort, more practice, more focus into their high school sport or band or music than they do their career. Apply the same things, you'd be shocked at what you can pull off.
No, I completely agree. Sometimes I see people with like an amazing food blog and I'm like, that's so awesome. You should monetize that because you clearly are passionate about it. And if you put that level of effort into your job, you wouldn't be you wouldn't be unhappy, right? You'd be fulfilled because it's something you find joy in. We have a question from Adam Knowles. What do you do you to make sure you become a cycle breaker and not a cycle maker in regards to self-care?
Ooh, prioritize it. Prioritize it. One of my personal favorite quotes. Show me your calendar, I'll show you your priorities.
There you go.
Show me your calendar, I'll show you your priorities. Right? So it's about being proactive. It's about being intentional, right? It's intentional. When am I doing the self-care? So the The time management strategy that I follow is called the 2 hour solution. It's from the book Train Your Brain for Success from Roger Seep. And what it talks about in this 2 hour solution is, at the end of every single week, you block 2 hours. It doesn't actually take 2 hours to do, but to plan your next week. And the very first step in the 2 hour solution is scheduling your excellence time. What is the time blocked that makes you excellent? That's the first thing that you are scheduling, right? Because I had a mentor tell me this very early in my career, and it stuck with me ever since. It said, the better you are, the better your results will be. So the better you are, right? Because we all know this, y'all, but we don't talk about it this way. Real quick, I got affirmations over here as well, y'all. But like, here's the thing, okay? Everyone listening, answer this question for me. What would happen to your results if you had more energy? What would happen to your results if you were more creative? What would happen to your results if you were more positive? What would happen to your results if you had a higher EQ? What would happen to your results if you saw more good in the world? We all know if we had those things, our results would go up, and that had nothing to do with our work. So, Adam, to answer the question, it's prioritizing the things that give us energy so we can take that energy and put it back out into the world.
I love that. All right, another one from Brandon. Katie, what important truth do very few people agree with you on?
That salespeople should practice.
You should always be practicing. Y'all, growing up, my mother used to ask me questions at the dinner table like I was at an interview. And that was literally why I feel very confident in interviews now. I can walk into any interview and feel like I will ace that interview because I grew up practicing those skills and working through hard conversations. Practice doesn't make perfect, but it makes progress. And you want to keep progressing through your career. If you're not trying to progress, then you're going to be stagnant and fall behind.
I don't know why that seems to be so crazy to think about, but like for whatever reason in sales, no one wants to practice. And it's just silly to me. It's just silly. I don't understand it, but that's a truth. That is a truth that I believe in that most people seem to not.
I think it's because a lot of people are uncomfortable, but you have to break through that. A lot of being great at sales is getting through those uncomfortable moments, y'all.
Right. Anything great in life was uncomfortable. If it was easy, there's nothing to be proud of. Like,
Yeah.
but this is again back to this idea of like taking careers seriously. Imagine going to like your high school choir director or your high school basketball coach and be like, "No, nah, I'm not going to practice. I'm just going to play the game."
Office.
Laughable. Laughable. No one would do that. But then in sales, no, I don't need to practice. I'll just learn in the demo. Dumb. Just dumb.
No, I hate that. And you can't just practice the wrong way over and over again. That's another thing, leaders, right? Like if you notice somebody's practicing the wrong way, don't just throw them back on another call without actually like coaching and correcting. Like you can practice your golf swing 1,000 times, but if you're practicing the wrong way, you're never gonna get better. Right?
Mhm.
Like you're still gonna be a bogey golfer. Doesn't matter how much you're on the range if you're not getting that coaching.
Yeah, it's silly. It is silly to me, but people out there live that way every day, every day.
All right. Adam wants to know if you would describe the difference between excellence and perfectionism.
I mean, excellence is possible, perfectionism is not, right? So I'll just start there, right? Excellence is about a standard, right? And it's one of those things like excellence when you see it. When you talk to someone who's excellent at what they do, they're able to do it almost effortlessly. Whereas perfectionism actually tends to hold people back, where we're trying to be perfect. And if it's not perfect, then we won't do it. So, perfectionism, we overthink. Perfectionism is a standard that actually prevents us from doing things because if it's not perfect, we won't do it. Whereas excellence also is variable, where excellence for me may be different than excellence for you. And that growth path is very possible. There's different levels of excellence. So that's how I look at it. Excellence to me is about a standard. It's about being skilled at what you do and able to do it repeatedly. Whereas perfectionism oftentimes actually holds us back because, like, oh, if I can't do it perfectly, like, oh, I only got one like on my post, so it's not perfect, so I'm not going to do it. It actually holds us back.
Yeah, I had somebody at one point tell me there's a time to be perfect, and then there's a time to just complete the task at hand. And being able to understand the difference in those two is very important as well. Um,
I am an 80-20er all day and through. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, perfect. I am an 80-20er. I will get something to 80% and go because I will learn more in 80% than I will trying to get it to 100%. All right, like 80% of the way. If I can get it that close, boom, I'm gone. I'm going. I'm not even trying to be perfect anymore. And early in my career, I wanted to be perfect. I wanted to be perfect for my team. I wanted to be a perfect leader, a perfect husband, a perfect father. It's not possible, right? The moment I actually accepted some of those flaws and accepted the places that I'm not great and could be authentically me is when all of those things got better.
yeah. All right, another question. I was in sales years ago, pivoting back into it from customer service management. What skill sets would you highlight most to stand out for someone transitioning from customer service back to sales?
Ooh. So I'll answer this two ways because there's skill sets and their characteristics. Right. So skill set wise, if you look at the skills necessary for sales, you have to be phenomenal at discovery. You have to be really good at asking second layer questions, like digging in, not just taking the first answer, but asking that second layer question and that third layer question. You need to be very good at connecting the dots. So, how do I connect the dots between what I heard and what the prospect wants to the product, to the solutions? You have to connect the dots. Obviously, objection handling is a skill there. But I would say overall, one of the biggest is that ability to connect the dots. How well can you take what you're hearing from the prospect and connecting it back to the product and back to the solution they are looking for? So that's on the skill side. Characteristics, right? Consistency is huge. Just day in and day out, doing the things that you're supposed to do is big. Empathy is big. Being creative is big. Curious is big. So those are some of the key characteristics I look for. And funny enough, at this point now, having led 5 large orgs and built them and worked with thousands of reps, one of the things I look for the most now in reps is how fast of a learner are they? Can they
Yeah.
learn quickly? Because if they can learn quickly, I know we can give them what they need to succeed, or they can hear it, practice it a couple times, and go. Fast learning is a huge characteristic I look for now in my people.
Fast learning is huge. And I also tell candidates a lot, if you can figure out anything about this company and learn it before your interview, how much is that going to set you apart than being the person in the interview that's like, well, what's a day in this role look like? Like, come on, guys. If you're in an interview and you ever ask anybody, what does a day in this role look like? You haven't done enough research. You shouldn't be in the room. You should have already been talking to people in that exact same role, doing what you'll be doing. Like, you will not move past that interview.
And again, back to this idea of taking your career serious. The amount of times that I'll have someone come to an interview and I'll ask them, what's something you learned about me in this interview process? And they've got nothing. And I'm easy to find, y'all. I am easy to find. You can go type it out. Kevin Dorsey, VP of Sales, and you will find something about me. The fact that they didn't even take the time to do that is like, you're not serious about this. Like, hold ourselves to a higher standard. It's just, we can do and be so much more if we just held our standard up a bit.
100%. 100%. I would ask you if your closet is color coordinated like your bookshelf.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So the point I posted about this,
I
right?
know, it was one of my favorite posts.
I have always wanted to have coordinated bookshelves, right? You see them in the influencers and they look so cool and professional. I've always wanted it, but I can't do it. I just can't. My brain doesn't work that way. And so I finally hired someone to
Yeah.
come in and revamp the office, and they loved every second of it. Just having a blast, like all these things. And I was like, yeah, like even so much. He's like, well, honestly, are you, true story, are you right handed or left handed? I said, I'm right handed. It's like, all right, well, we need to put the red to your right hand because that's your dominant hand, and red is the color of power and passion. So it needs to align with your power hand. I'm like, look, dude, yes,
I
yes,
love that.
yes. Right? Where yellow is more about creativity, right? Yellow is more about understanding and empathy, and that is your left hand. That is your creative. I'm like, I knew that. I totally knew that. So yeah, good times. Good times. But
I
no, my
love
closet, none of it.
I love that. Yeah, no, so it's actually funny. My closet is color coordinated, but I don't own enough books to have a color coordinated bookshelf like you. I'm an Audible fan, so I listen to my books while I walk.
I don't own enough clothes. People that have worked with me, they know my get up. Right, my work uniform's all black. There's not a lot of colors in there to coordinate.
That's so funny. All right. I had to bring up the bookshelf. I did like your post about that, by the way. Y'all create some content. Get out there. Don't be scared to post on LinkedIn. Katie posted about his freaking bookshelf and it was okay. Like nobody's gonna be mad about your post. Just post it. Nobody cares what your old coworker says. Nobody cares what anybody thinks. Post that post.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So before we keep talking about questions, let's move into another fun topic. Let's talk about some pivotal moments that defined your career looking back. Obviously, I know that a lot of us, we don't realize in the moment that these are the moments that are defining our career, right? So looking back, what do you think are some of the biggest choices that impacted where you're at today?
So there's a few that stand out. One is when I got my first mentor at those gyms, and he handed me a book called Think and Grow Rich. And he said, if you want to be successful, read this book and come back to me and we'll talk about it. And I wasn't much of a reader. That was not me. That was not my style. And I read that book and I finished it in a weekend. And it was like the light bulb went off of like, whoa, like it's here. Like if I want to achieve great things, it starts here. I have to have that burning passion. I have to set my mind to it. I have to commit to it on a daily basis. And that's what like triggered the self-development growth for me. That's when all the book reading like started and the goal setting and the affirmations and everything else. So that was one pivotal moment. That's what got me into self-development. The next one that I look back at is actually when I became an SDR. So built two very successful gyms, but I was killing myself. I was working 80 plus hours a week. I was in the gym at 5:30 in the morning, like an hour and a half break in the afternoon. I was back in there until like 10 o'clock at night, 6 to 7 days a week, right? I had a daughter, at that time, and just I was killing myself. So I left. Right. But at that point, I'd already built two very successful gyms. Then I started selling enterprise. I built an enterprise team out, but making the most money I've ever made in my life that period of time. But the company was really shady and I couldn't live with it. And so, but I made a step over to a company called Human. And this was a pivotal one for me. So Human stood for helping unite mankind in nutrition. And in the interview process, I got into an argument with the co-founder, Andy Mackinson. Shout out Andy Mack. Got into an argument in the interview process on which book was better, Think and Grow Rich or Awaken the Giant Within. And I thought Awaken the Giant Within was better. I thought it was more tactical. I thought it was more applicable. And I loved Think and Grow Rich, but I was like, truthfully, having read both, Awaken the Giant Within, we argued over this. And at that moment, I was like, I want to work for this company because these are the people I want to be around. And the only job they had available was an SDR job. That was it. I had already built two successful teams. I had already sold millions of dollars in sales, and I took an SDR because it got me into that company. And I went from SDR to AE in 5 months, AE to manager 6 months later, manager to director 9 months later, and I was the VP of that 9 months after that. And that's what got me into like tech and into more of like the software world a bit. So that was a pivotal moment in my career. And then the other big one is when I got fired. That was a fun one for me as well as a pivotal moment. So after I left Snack Nation, I went to Service Titan. And when I left Snack Nation, my heart was broke when I left Snack Nation because I didn't want to leave there. That was my baby. I did not want to leave, but the time had come for me to leave. And I went to Service Titan, and it was not the right fit for me from day one. Just culturally, just was not the right fit. But also, I didn't establish the relationships with the right people. I kind of came in with this, like, I'm just going to do me. Y'all do your thing. That's fine. I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to hit my numbers, and that's it. And I never connected with the right people at that company. And for a lot of things that occurred there, ended up being let go with no warning, with no nothing, right? It caught everybody, myself, my team, everybody blindsided by it. But that one was pivotal to me because that literally, actually, now it's reorganized. That was the year I won Sales Development Leader of the Year. That was the year that they became a unicorn. That was the year that we 3-4x pipeline, and yet I still got moved out. And that to me was like the final, like, I'm not going to play this game anymore. I'm going to be me. I'm going to give my all. I'm not going to pretend to be somebody that I'm not. And if I get the results I want, great. If I don't, then not. Because you can hit results and be let go. You can also be bad at your job and stay forever. You see that happen all the time. That was like the, you know what? None of this really matters. You can do a great job and still not get the result that you're looking for. And that was when I think I finally completely detached from the outcome of like, I'm going to lead. I'm going to be the best I possibly can for my people. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, then it doesn't. But I'm not going to pretend anything else. And that's when then, stepping into patient pop, boom, right?
Boom, skyrocketed.
So those are some of the pivotal moments in my career.
You hear it often about being able to detach from the outcome. So many people say to do it. It is hard to do, right? Like, let's be very transparent. That is hard, y'all. But it is something that when you actually can detach from the outcome of a situation and you're just there to better people, to better your surroundings, to like Katie said, be the best person you can be. Yeah, that is freeing. That weight lifts, and you
Mhm.
know that you've done what you can do for the people around you. And then the other thing I want to highlight that you said about taking that SDR role, you took that SDR role to work for the certain people that you wanted to be around, right? So this is another thing I see happening all the time right now. Nobody wants to go work for a company anymore. There's no like sexy companies out there, but there's sexy leaders right now. And people want to go work for certain leaders. Are you seeing this too?
Absolutely. My inbox right now, nightmare. Absolute nightmare right now. When I announced, right, that I was back in leadership, what do you think happened in my inbox? What do you think I have close to 100 of right now?
You got 100 of the standard that nobody even customized. Congrats on the new job that just flood everything. And then you
No,
got probably 500 more.
I got 1,000 of those. That, oh my God, just the worst. I got 1,000 of those.
Don't
I
send
have
those, y'all. We don't want those. Don't send those.
Well, the problem is people. All you have to do is click a button, right? All you have to click a button, it sends it. I was like, oh, funny enough, has Scott, familiar with Scott Least? Scott, right? Scott's a good friend of mine. I texted him within the first like 30 minutes. That's like, oh my God, no. Oh my God, no. I clicked the share the update with my audience. So now I'm getting all the just automated congrats. But no, I have close to 100 different types of messages asking if I'm hiring. Can I come work for you? Right. And it's that, right? If you think about like a brand, that's why I did it, by the way. I always get asked, how I built my brand. Very few people ever ask me why I built my brand. And it was about people. One, I wanted access to people smarter than me. That if like they knew like who I was, I could maybe get access to them to ask them questions. And two is I wanted to attract the right type of people to work for me.
There you go.
That was it. And the right type of people, right? The right type of people to work for me. Some of y'all know who I am from my brand online. Some of y'all might like it. Some of y'all might not like it. Perfect.
Yep.
Perfect. Because if you don't like my online brand, I can promise you, you won't like my in-person brand because they're the same. So it attracts the right type of people and repels the others. But like to your point, there's you build a reputation for being known as something. Now, not everyone's going to like you, and that's fine, but the right type of people will, and they attract you. So the moment I'm able to hire, guess what I get to do?
Yeah. You have the pick of anybody in your inbox. You could probably message almost anyone and be like, they'd be like, bye. Let's just be real. That's what it is. And you've built that trust, right? That's another thing that building your brand and really connecting with people and building those relationships does. It builds trust. And trust is such a key thing right now. All right. We have a few questions really quick. Brandon wants to know, a year from now, how will you know you've done a good job as an SVP of sales?
My leaders are better. My leaders are better. Plain and simple, right? Results are what they are. A year from now, I want to be able to look and see that Ryan and Sandy and Ada and Russ are better. that they are better at their roles. And I'll know they're better because their team leads and managers will be better. And I know they'll be better because the reps will be better. But if I look a year from now, that is my number one gauge and measurement is, are the leaders under me better? That's how I'll know in a year. You can hit numbers in a year. That happens.
I
Making
love
people better in a year, that's the key.
Yeah, numbers are one thing, but people development is more important, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
You have to leave people better than you found them, right?
It's weird.
Okay, Sandy wants to know any suggestions on how to keep laser focused on what we can control and letting go of what we can't.
So I'm a huge fan of just asking good questions. So, Sandy, I'd say ask yourself the question: can I control this? Can I control this? No. All right. Like, it's just asking ourselves that question: can I control it? If I can't control it, there's nothing I can do about it. And you let that go. But the first part of your question, though, too, is that laser focused is you have to also know where you're going. Where are you going? Because if you don't know where you're going, if you don't know what you're actually trying to achieve, you actually can't stay focused. That is why I think so many people struggle with focus right now, is they don't know where they're trying to go. They don't know what they're trying to go. So then how do you stay focused? I know where I'm trying to go. I have my goals right here in front of me with their reasons, with my 3x3s. I know where I'm trying to go. And I'm asking myself constantly, is what I'm doing bringing me closer to that or not? Yes, keep doing it. No, stop doing it. Right? I mean, something people have talked about this in good ways and bad ways. I'm very simple. Is this helping me get closer to what I want right now? No, then I should stop. I don't
Yeah.
overthink it. I don't overanalyze it. I don't come up with all the other reasons. It's like the answer is no. So I stop and I get back into something that does.
It's either a hell yes or a hell no, and there is no in between. If it
Mhm.
doesn't really light that fire, if it's not something that's driving you towards your goal, you should not be focusing any of your energy towards it.
I'll put one asterisk on that though, because I think people get it twisted sometimes. Are there things I need to do that aren't hell yeses that will get me closer to my goal? Yes. Like, I don't love having a tough conversation with an individual that's underperforming. That is not a hell yes. I don't wake up like, do I want to do this? Hell yeah, I do. Let's go. Let's go.
But it's necessary
Exactly. So
for their improvement too.
I just want to call that out because I do think what's also happened over the past, 10 years or so is this idea of like, love what you do. It's yes, but there's always going to be parts of what you have to do that you may not love. And sometimes people are like, I don't love cold calling, so I'm not going to be in sales. Well, so no, that's not how this works, right? I love running a demo. In order to run a demo, I need to be good at cold calling. I never loved cold calling, but I loved doing a demo. And so I got good at cold calling so I could do more of what I loved. So I just want to call that one out because sometimes people they take it too far. Like, I'm not passionate about this, so I'm not going to do it. It's like, there's some things that are always going to be like,
If
but
you
you got
plan
to do
to make some money off of it, you're gonna probably do something that puts you in an comfortable position at some point.
it. It's going to happen for sure.
Okay, Nathan wants to know, how do you define better management?
Love it. So my definition of like leadership and management is making people better, helping them accomplish more than they could have on their own. So when I'm looking at my managers, I'm looking at, are there people getting better? And I'll know if their people are getting better based off their metrics and their results. So I don't let my managers just like ride one or two like great reps to hitting their number. Is your team getting better? Because if your team isn't getting better, I don't need a manager. So that's how I define better management, Nathan, is, are their people getting better?
I love that. Okay, Elijah wants to know, you have a why for your brand. How do you help your leaders find their why?
So I ask them. So a big part of my, some of the things that I do with my team is I take my teams through goal settings 2 times a year. 2 times a year, 90 minutes, whole team off the floor to go through goal setting. And it's an entire process of goal setting. What is it you're trying to achieve? Why do you want to achieve that? What will change in your life if you achieve that? What would that allow you to do that you can't do now? Who do you need to be to accomplish those goals? What would hold you back? Like, it's a full 90-minute exercise that we go through as a team. So I've just built it into my orgs, Elijah. Like, when I say, again, like, priorities, I put it on the calendar. January and July, we're doing goal setting. I'm going to teach you how to do it and what this looks like. You can half-ass it if you want. That's your choice. It's an interesting thing to half-ass, but it's your choice. But I'm going to put that forward as something that I believe is important for my orgs, because the things that I believe lead to success, I try to build into my orgs. I'm not asking them to do it outside of their job. Like, if I believe goal setting is important, I'm going to build it into their job. If I believe movement is important, I build it into their job. True story, I've gone to HR not once, but twice and asked, can I make meditation mandatory? Can I make meditation mandatory? And of course, I'm told no. It's like, why can I make cold calling mandatory, but I can't make meditation mandatory? Like, one of them destroys your soul, the other one builds it up. Why is one allowed to be mandatory and one not? So I try to find ways to build these things into my team's day to day so that it contributes to their day to day success.
I love that. Do you color code your calendar?
No.
No, you're not a color coding person.
I clearly not, right? So it's funny. Like, I live by my calendar. I don't color code it. Funny enough, you know why? Because one, I don't feel like I have the time to do it. But two, I'm like, is this actually helping me? Like, when I talk about being like ruthless with decision making, I go, is making this purple and that green helping me get closer to my goals? No, not even gonna take the 10 seconds it takes to get that done.
So for me, one of my goals now that I'm remote is to make sure I'm spending adequate time with my kid, because that's a huge reason as to why I'm doing what I do. And I have clients in the UK and clients in Seattle. So you can imagine some days I'm up at like 5 a.m. and some days I'm working until 10 or 11. So I color code to make sure that I'm seeing that family time, that color on my calendar, that it's like, okay, Lauren, you did spend enough time with your family. You didn't come in your office and close the door and not leave this week. So that's why it's important for me, because I literally will just come in here and close the door and never leave and order DoorDash and not cook or spend time or
I hear that. I hear it. And it's funny. I am, especially when the kids were home, like we were doing like the remote, now I have a good enough habit with it. But my favorite word is intention. That's my favorite word, intention. And so I put intentional things on my calendar. So not even so much like how much time, but like my intention is every day to make my daughters laugh. That is my intention. And when I set that intention, it doesn't take that much time to do. But when I'm with them, the intention is there that they laugh, that they feel loved, that they feel safe, right? True, like, again, like, I wish I had like my old calendar, especially when they were home all day for school. Like, on my calendar, it'd be like, make Lily laugh. Pop up. I could come out my office for 30 seconds, just water guns blazing, make her laugh and go back in, right? You could, if my daughters are home right now, I'd bring them in and ask it. There are times I'll step out my office like, girls. I'll be like, what? Like, love you. Ah, love you too. Ah. Back in. That was 30 seconds. But the intention is there to make them feel a certain type of way.
It does matter. That time matters. I did a live last night and I was here with my kid alone and he popped in for the entire live. And normally I would have been mortified, but like he was the star of the show and he was cute and that's real life, right? Like we all experienced that through COVID. That's like, I think my favorite thing that COVID did for all of us. It's like, we're allowed to be humans in our job again. Where for years it was like, no, you're a human. You can't be a human at work. You have to be a robot at work and leave everything else behind. So I love that, like we get to see each other's personalities a little bit more now, right? Like seeing somebody with their kid on the other side of the call and how they interact, like that's awesome. And I love seeing those little glimpses into people's lives now. Tracy says she's gonna implement set intentions and keeping them. The other thing I want to point out really quick, if y'all noticed, he has his goals written down. Like he picked them up and showed them to you. Write your goals on paper. There is something about putting pen to paper and writing down your goals that will make them not just more obtainable, but more real in your mind. Take the time to actually write them down, y'all. It's so important. And I think a lot of people skip that step. When you pulled up your cards, I was like, I gotta hit that. All right, we don't have a ton more time, but let's talk really quickly about simplifying your process and running a sales organization that doesn't overcomplicate. We all know right now there's a billion tools out there, there's a million things. A lot of people are getting bogged down and did I do enough activities today? So let's talk about simplifying your process. How do you run a sales organization that's not overcomplicated?
So the way I do that, so I have it's funny. There's all these sales methodologies out there, right? Medic, MedPick, Spice, Challenger, Spin, Bant, Value. Like there's all these sales methodologies. There's no leadership methodology, which is why I think as leaders, we often overcomplicate things. So like I built a leadership methodology and it's called BIPSI. And so BIPSI is the methodology I teach my managers and how I run my orgs to keep things simple. So there's the results we want to hit. Behind every result, there's about 6 to 7 key metrics. 6 to 7 like key metrics behind those results. And behind every metric, it's either a behavior, B, there's something going on with the individual, I, something's off in our process, P, we don't have the skills we need, S, or you as the leader aren't doing the right things, Y. And so BIPSI is how we keep things simple. What metric are we focused on? All right. Is it behavioral, individual, process, skill, or you that is causing, right? That is causing the issues that we are seeing. I have a full issue diagnosis checklist. One of my favorite books that truly, I think, impacted my career as a leader, Checklist Manifesto. Checklist Manifesto. If surgeons use checklists and pilots use checklists, and submarine drivers use checklists. Checklists can work for us as leaders and as salespeople. Things get overcomplicated when you have to remember everything. Whereas if it's documented, it's simple. These are the things that we know lead to success. But then also, very similarly, so I actually just shared this with my new leadership team that I'm working with. I said something that I can promise you will get frustrated with. I can promise you will get frustrated with me as working together is how often I'm going to pull you back from things where you're going to want to go off and solve this thing. And I'm going to have to pull you back and say, we haven't solved this yet. This needs to be solved before we solve that. I know you want to figure that out and God bless you. We're gonna. But we got to figure this out first. And so it's making sure we're prioritizing on the right things as well. That's the key to simplification. I keep things very simple, very clear. This is where we're trying to go. Here are the main things we have to do to get there. And anything else, back burner. Anything else. And that I've already gotten that a couple of times. Even KD, like, we need to have a call about this. No, we do not. We do not need to have a call about that. You know why we don't need to have a call about that? Because we haven't solved this other thing yet. Help me solve this other thing, then we can have all the calls you want about that thing. But until then, come back. So that's how you keep things simple.
That's important. How do you define kind of the difference between something that's important and something that's urgent?
So, I've played around with a lot of like, the whatever the things, what is it called? The Eisenhower squares and like the 7 habits of highly productive people and all that. Right. To me, it's like one of those things where it's like, when you really think about it, like, is this urgent? AKA, will this change something massive now? No, then it's not urgent. Whereas like important, will it lead to a drastic change? Yes. Urgency is a time thing. And so that's also like, I'm very proactive with my time, with my communication. I'm not very reactive. If I'm reacting to it, it means we don't have a good process for it. We need to get a process in place to handle it. But the prioritization is the key to urgency. Again, full circle back to one of your earlier questions. If you know where you're trying to go, urgency is very clear. It's when you're trying to do everything that everything feels urgent. I know where I'm trying to go. That's how I can stack rate whether or not something's urgent or not. It's urgent if it's going to help me get there. It's not
100%.
if it's not.
And you just talking about everything brings me back to your point about a checklist, y'all. Sometimes I would give somebody a checklist as a leader and they'd be like, I don't need a checklist. And it's like, okay, I know you think you know how to do everything, but we're human. We are human. Things fall through the cracks every day, not just in our work, in our professional life. Come on, y'all, at home, everywhere, things are falling through the cracks. And if you can't be the person to utilize the tools that your leaders are giving you, that's a you problem as well. So make sure that you're open to the things that your leaders are telling you will actually change and benefit you. I see that a lot as well. Like you said, like, oh, I don't want to do cold calling. That's no fun. Like, that's okay. But you have to actually make action to change. So think about that as well. Some of y'all watching, I'm sure sometimes your leader tells you or kind of wants you to do things a little bit of a different way. And they are implying that because they know it works. They probably tried it and it's true. So I just want to point that out as well. All right, we only have a few more minutes, and I want to talk about something a little bit fun, right? So I, like you said, everybody can find out a lot about you if they go search you on the internet. And I watched a few interviews with you, and one of them, something popped out that you said if you weren't in sales, maybe you would potentially be like a rancher or live on a ranch. So life on the ranch, we should have been cowboys, man. Like I would have been on a ranch being a cowboy. Where does that come from, and why a ranch?
So where it comes from, and this is before Yellowstone was cool, right? Like I know a lot of people watch Yellowstone. They're like, oh, now I want to get a ranch. We've been talking about this for a long time. So where it actually comes from is my father is from Oklahoma, and not a lot of people actually know this about me. My father's from Oklahoma, like country Oklahoma, like not like country. So every summer we would be out in, outside of Oklahoma in Spencer. We would be riding hogs. We'd be out hunting, catching rattlesnakes. Like those were things that I did growing up as a kid in the summer. And so like just being in nature and being around animals was just always something, like that. We just looked forward, get out of the city for like the summer, riding hogs right out there, like land, you're just getting dirty and all of that. So I've always wanted to have like that space to do it. And I've shared this with a lot of people, right? Like my favorite animal is the buffalo, right? Favorite animal is the buffalo. And it has been that way for 12, 13 years, right? So there's that one. There's actually, I don't know if people will be able to see this. This is actually a gift from my team. I don't know if people can see this, right? It was a decanter, right, with the buffalo on it. It's got the quote, KD, pipeline over everything. This was a gift from my team one year. And so I always wanted like a buffalo ranch, 100+ acres, mountains in the background, river out front, space for them to roam, taking care of the animals, just being out there. Because there's something about the simple discipline of running a ranch that I love the idea of, where it's hard, that you're outdoors, you're working with animals, but it's simple. You know what you're doing day in and day out to go through it. So that's always been a dream of mine, is to have a buffalo ranch, and it's gonna happen. It's going to happen. This is it's not a hope, it's not a wish, it's a goal. And I've gotten really good at hitting goals. So
Right. Well, I can't wait to come see your ranch one day. I never rode a hog, I'll admit, but I grew up riding horses. I busted out my jacket from 1998, y'all. 1998. I don't know how I still have this. But I rode horses growing up, and I actually went before Yellowstone became popular, like you said. I went to a dude ranch in Montana back in 2017. And y'all, I've been on a lot of vacations. I live 5 minutes from the ocean. Like I drove to the ocean at lunch today. Like I'm spoiled, okay? Montana and being out there and being on a ranch was the best possible thing for my soul. And I still am connected with Ernie, and I joke, I'm like, one day, like I joked with you earlier, every other Friday, I'm like, I'm just gonna pack it all up and go move to Montana.
yeah,
But I think we all have those moments as sellers where we're like, F this, we're just gonna go do whatever we want. But the idea of living on a ranch and that kind of life, you still have the grit and all of like the hard work and effort where you're putting in and you're seeing the results. And I think that's what we like as salespeople. So I like that fact about you. And I love the fact that like you mean it. This isn't just like, oh no, I really like buffalo and it would be a cool. Like you're like, no, 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 no. I will see you on the ranch in a few years. I'll be taking a picture with my buffalo in the background for that LinkedIn selfie. 3 years, y'all. And it's written down on one of those little note cards in front of him. But it's just super inspiring. And if you write your goals down and you actually have passion and you actually have drive, like you are proof. Look at what you can do and look at how far you can go. And I think that you've helped a lot of people along the way. So thank you for that. And thank you for coming on and spending some time with us this afternoon. I think we answered all of the questions. Somebody wants to know if you got a bottle of Buffalo Trace with that. It might have been Glenmorangie. That's your favorite.
Yeah, like Glenmorangie is my favorite Scotch. If I'm getting into bourbons, right? Like love me some Blantons, love me some Eagle Rare as well, and some of that Buffalo Trace. Send it my way. It will not go to waste. I can promise you that.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, I like Bland's. It's kind of hard to find right now. All the good stuff's a little hard to find right now, if you know what I'm talking about. But y'all, this has been fun. This was a great Friday. Thank you so much. I cannot wait to see you all back here next week. Every Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern. We'll see you live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. Until next week, that's been fun. Bye.